Here we are then, back then for F1 Sim Racing 2026. My name is Tom Deacon and I welcome you here to Dreamcast here in Birmingham for the first time ever. It's resplendent. How good is this? A LAN event coming directly to you wherever you are in the world. I've got an established, brilliant team with me, George Morgan, Kai Bacini, and also Nicola Hume. Welcome. First of all, George, we're back. 2026. We waited so long. It's happening. Did you enjoy qualifying earlier on?
I really did, Tom. It was a splendid watch, and I've got to say credit first and foremost to every single team that took part. Obviously, Red Bull back to their brilliant best. We saw some snippets of Alpine as well. Nicolas Longuet putting in some fast runs in Q1 and Q2, top of the tree in both sessions. Just could not quite replicate it in Q3 nonetheless. But Red Bull, definitely the standout. Freddie's back.
Yeah, Freddie's back. Now, this is on the back of, if you're just new to F1 Sim Racing for 2026, Oracle Red Bull Racing are your team champions, reigning champions, and Jana Watmir is your reigning drivers champion. I'll come just towards Nicola because you caught up with Freddie Rasmussen earlier on.
Yep.
Welcome for the first time in F1 Sim Racing.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. You come with a fantastic CV. You're chatting to the drivers. How was Freddie Rasmussen back to form?
I mean, I feel like I've always been a fan of Freddie because Freddie, what you see is what you get. And you're not going to get a detailed answer, that kind of thing, because he's a very quiet lad. But chatting to him earlier after his pole, I feel like he's feeling pretty good about himself. You can kind of see the little twinkle in his eye. So it was really lovely to chat to him earlier. So hopefully you can go and watch that back. If you're watching on YouTube, go and watch that back. But he's on top form, which is really nice because it's been a while since we've seen him on top form, especially after last season. But then immediately after that, I spoke to Otis Lawrence, which was a much more different experience because you expect to see him smile more, but he wasn't smiling. We got him to smile by the end of it, but at that point, I mean, he ended up in P7, so that was a bit disappointing for him. So that was a bit of a tricky interview, that one.
Yeah, we handled it perfectly. The drivers, a bit of nerves to start with, potentially, Kai. But talking of Otis Lawrence, he's the Alpine, a whole shake-up for their driver roster. What have you made of them so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a very, very strong team. You know, you've got the veteran in the likes of Danny Berezne, and then you've got this young, hot on the scene Otis Lawrence at 17 years old. He's out here performing at his very, very best. Alpine have a very strong lineup, and I think it's going to be interesting watching this driver pair up over the course of this season. Obviously, Otis Lawrence, we know on his one-lap pace that he's so strong. Disappointed with P7 says everything. He knows that he could have done a little bit better, and he'll be hoping to improve on that in the race. However, a Q2 departure for Danny Berezne. I don't think any of us expected that up here in the commentary box and also down on the floor for you guys as well. Berezne is often a Q3 contender, but this time not quite enough. But on the interview we saw after the race,
yeah,
it was still all smiles, Nicola.
Well, it was kind of smiles, but I'll be honest, before you came live to me, he looked like he was quite emotional, and he had a few moments where it was those kind of moments. So you could see it really quite got to him. So I'm hoping that within the race today, he'll come back a little bit stronger.
You've met the team. You understand what's going to be happening as we go racing in China around the Shanghai International Circuit. But let's have a recap of what happened during quali. But before we get to that, let's have a look at the format just for anyone who is new to F1 Sim Racing. It's great to have you with us at 9 teams, each fielding a 3 esports roster of drivers with 2 drivers selected. And then we've got 12 events. As I mentioned, we are going to be starting off in China. We're going racing very shortly. And look at that on the far right of the screen, $750,000 prize pool. How does that get broken down? We will show you. Top spot, walking away with a staggering amount of money. But look, that is what you're seeing, a live audience. We haven't seen that in such a long time. What do you mean, how will that affect the drivers in some way? They'll probably just ride on that energy.
Different kind of pressure, Tom, isn't it, when you arrive in an arena with thousands of people in attendance, also at the same time millions of people across the globe tuning in for qualifying earlier on today as well. It really does set the scene, and it's great to be back for this championship as well. Obviously, so much to build on. There is the prize pool at the bottom of your screen as well, folks. Just over incredible £127,777 for first place. Truly staggering. $750,000.
I know, and the fact that you see around, you can't quite see that you've got the engineers and the race engineers just next to the drivers in their sim rigs, but there's a whole roster of crew and staff that come with them, which we'll see. Now, I did allude to it. I sort of wet the whistle on the fact that we would see some highlights from quali around China, so we shall have a look at that right now. What happened? Q1, there was a few surprises which you alluded to, Kai. What happened?
Yeah, Q1 and all the way throughout qualifying was a very special session as well. This was the first shakedown. This was the rundown that we should expect from the drivers, and this really set the tone for what is going to be going on this weekend and what we should expect from the drivers as well. A few keeping it all the way down to the wire, as Jake Benham was not making it easy for himself to make it out of Q1 in his McLaren. But in terms of the Alpines, it was no problems at all. Otis Lawrence was looking so strong up at the front end, looking like it was going to be an easy top 3 for him to find himself at the end of these qualifying sessions. Once it came down to 15, that's when things started to heat up. Less drivers, more pressure, more action, faster lap times. That's exactly what we expected, and that's exactly what we got as well. Nicholas Longue, he was fastest in Q1, topped the timing tables in Q2 as well, proving that Williams has something underneath the hood that all the teams and all the drivers need to keep an eye on. However, Q3 was a completely different question, because this is where a spanner was thrown into the mix, and this is where the drivers really started to mix up their positions. Otis Lawrence, for one moment, looking like pole position was going to go his way with such a strong banker lap that nobody was able to get near or even touch the Alpine driver. However, once it got to the end of qualifying, it was fast Freddie Rasmussen who ended up back on the top step. It was a rough last season for him, but Freddie's back on form.
I'll tell you what, George, you've got your work cut out with Kai Pacini in the commentary. Will you get a word in edgeways? The excitement from both of you is brilliant to hear in quali. A real fantastic combination, you two. Ulash, you said he got pole last year in China. Surprised with that, just off 400ths of a second.
Couldn't quite replicate it from last year. He came close though. 38 thousandths is certainly very, very tight. But Freddie, like Kai so eloquently put, may not have been the same character last year. 7th in the championship, has come back with a flurry, and what a perfect start for Red Bull. I think also having Jarno Opmeer is key. The strategy will obviously work, I'd imagine, for them. Obviously, the race is a whole other ball game altogether. But credit also to Ismail Fassi, first stint in the Ferrari, 8th place. I think he wanted and yearned for something a little extra. Thomas Ronha speaking, around the same things too. They're not overly happy with how things unfolded. And obviously, after Nicola's little chat with Otis Lawrence, we got an indication that he is not happy either with how things unfolded. Certainly not in the same vein like we saw in Q1 and Q2. And same can be said for Nicholas Longue, who put in some mean stints in the first 2 sessions, but he's still on the second row. As we look back to the second half of the table, obviously John Evans at the very bottom has had very little time to prepare for this event, really, and has stepped in alongside, of course, Ismail Fassi. Ruben Pedreño, first start for Aston Martin. A little bit of work to do on his part, but there's definitely lots of peaks and troughs there, no question. As we're only on the first step of a 12-round calendar, there's plenty more to come.
Did you find when you were chatting to the drivers, Nicola, that they all felt a little bit like they'd left something on the table in qualifying? That the frustration, and there's not much in it, is there?
It's really tight, isn't it? I mean, especially looking at that back now, you can see how close that really was. But it's quite nice for me as a first experience being and seeing it in the metal. I'm kind of enjoying seeing their reactions in person. Like, I'm watching their faces, which annoyingly you can't see from home when you're watching on YouTube. But from what I can see, it's the sweat, blood, tears, everything that's gone into this. But it does feel like it's all eyes on Red Bull. I mean, right at the start of qualifying, we got Jarno Opmeer, current reigning world champion, stood next to me. We also got Constructors Red Bull stood next to me. They handed back their trophies, but it feels like, do you reckon they're just going to give them straight back to them?
It does feel like they've definitely got a target on their back coming into this, and the return of Freddie Rasmussen's form, which he didn't have necessarily last year. He became the second driver to make sure Jarno became world champion. I tell you what, they really are the team to watch.
You'd be a fool to rule out Freddie Rasmussen this season, I think. He'll be yearning to bounce back from last year. He's the only driver to surpass 1,000 points in the sport as well at the same time. Just goes to show his consistency across the many years he's been competing. He's been with Red Bull for such a long time. You could almost say he's been there since the beginning if you include his stint at Toro Rosso. But, aside from that, there's plenty of other contenders, though. I was really impressed with Nico.
Wait, I know you were impressed with Nico, but as a Welshman, were you impressed with Otis Lawrence a little bit? I'm not saying there's any bias in any way.
I knew that was coming at some point.
Listen, I mean, I agree with what Otis. I agree with everything he said. I think prior to at the end of quali, I honestly think that there was more in the tank. And certainly coming off the preseason they had in league racing, Alpine by far looked like the candidate to take the fight to Red Bull. And I love this young character. He has got so much ambition and ability. He dreams of being a champion in F1 sim racing. And by rights, by sheer power and prominence, his natural ability behind a sim racing wheel, he will be a future star, no question. And I think having someone like Danny Berejnay alongside him, a man who has taken 2 drivers to world titles in the past as a teammate, you couldn't have anyone better alongside you.
Well, I tell you what, 2 very well-known drivers have got some words of encouragement for their drivers from Alpine.
Josh, Otis, Danny.
Let's go, Josh, Danny, Otis, alright!
We are behind you. All the best for the F1 sim
All the best, boys.
racing season. And yeah, we hope
Smash
many
it.
wins. Smash it. Ciao, ciao,
Let's
guys.
go and win.
That is awesome to see. Pierre Gasly, Franco Colapinto. It was a double thumbs up from Franco Colapinto. They were sort of like, they hadn't rehearsed that in any way. It was full energy, full love for Danny Berejnay and Otis Lawrence. And good luck to all of the drivers. But I think what I'm hearing is this is the best of the best going out there, ready to compete. And we know how much it means to them, Kai. And it definitely will be put to the test in Shanghai. What can we look out for in this circuit?
We can watch out for a lot of overtaking action. Shanghai is one of the best circuits on the calendar, and it always poses such a challenge for these drivers. 5.4 kilometers in length, 16 corners, 65% of the lap is flat out, and that means that the drivers just need to be so technical and so precise with the positioning of those cars. One small mistake off the racing line, you're losing an abundance of time. However, we have those fast-flowing corners. We also have our very technical braking zones. Through the middle sector, a few drivers were struggling to hook that up throughout the qualifying session, and that is where you get the great away from the good, and these drivers will be looking to do the best that they can. Overtaking aplenty, action aplenty, strategy is going to be a big one. What can we expect from this race, George?
Yeah, I mean, I want to build on that strategy element because I think what's compelling, largely we're going to be looking at a medium-hard, hard-medium scenario, I think, judging from what I've discussed with engineers coming through the weekend. But it's who jumps first. Now, you're going to be looking at the candidates down the bottom end of the top 10, also maybe in the early touches of the bottom 8 as well at the same time. So, yeah, it's going to be compelling, interesting. Who makes that initial jump? Like I said, there's been lots of discussions behind the scenes as to how the teams and the drivers are going to operate. So yeah, it's going to be very compelling. And this is the brilliant thing about Shanghai. You mentioned about that long straight. One of the longest straights you'll see on the calendar as well, coming out of turn 13. What we found interesting in quali was that you had drivers that were fastest in the first and third sector. As soon as things got technical in that middle sector, that is where things fell apart. So may see some overtakes in those initial long straights. I'm more interested in what happens in the middle.
Yeah, completely agree with you, and I think that is where it's going to be the crunch zone for the drivers. They need to maintain their focus all the way around the lap, because just one small slip up and they're engulfed by all of the drivers nipping at their heels. Remember, the margins are so fine between everyone here. You can't quite call who's going to walk out on top of this one.
Well, you've set it up perfectly. We are about to go racing very shortly around China. Thomas Ronhart, a name that has been mentioned many times. Could this be the year for him to become a world champion? He's moved to Mercedes. Has he got it in him? I mean, fantastic qualifying again. That's 21 consecutive top 10 qualifying positions for him. He's got the minerals.
He does have minerals. And he's got a team that has minerals too in terms of developing champions. So, yeah, they're clearly drinking the right mineral water, perhaps. Maybe that's what it is. But, yeah, no, credit to Thomas Ronhart. I mean, he's had a lot of stick over the years, and he's had to put up with a lot as well coming up through the realms of sim racing. It hasn't been easy. But then again, if you can rise above adversity and put yourself against the sword, he's come out on top. We all remember the finger shush back in 2023-24, where he came back after a very difficult pre-season. But since moving to Kick Sauber, it was a major question mark as to how he was going to cope, I think, under a new team, new colours, coming into Brackley now with Mercedes, though alongside a teammate that he has been with through the course of league racing leading up to this championship in Julian Klappenbach. They seem to be united, I think, these two, and again, could play a major role in upsetting the balance against Red Bull.
Can we talk about the gentleman next to him, a rookie? There are 3 rookies this year, 13 driver roster changes. Let's talk about those rookies, because Thomas Ronhart, lit the sim racing world up in terms of his ability, and then got that move. The same with Alfie Butcher, who will be starting in P4. Can we talk about this driver next to Thomas that will be hoping to help him get that first championship?
Julian Klaffenbach is a rich raw talent, and I'm not surprised by any means that we're seeing him now featuring on the grid. Has come through the realms of league racing, has been proficient, obviously working as a teammate to Thomas Ronha, and they do have that working relationship as well. It has been progression, certainly on his part, the Austrian stepping in. I mean, to be in your first World Championship is very, very daunting, I think, for anyone, but to come here at DreamHack for your first season, I mean, that's a whole other level. 50,000 plus tickets sold over the weekend, and you've got all those eyes looking at you, not to mention the millions watching around the world. I think for a young man to pull something like this off is truly astounding, and the fact that he's competitive is a great thing to see.
I've seen so many papaya fans out there. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, Nicola. There are a huge amount of papaya that have come along to represent. It's almost like deck chairs on holiday. They've put their papaya jackets over and have secured that area. We're looking on the screen at Jake Benham, and obviously getting that opportunity to really cement himself as a 1 and 2 driver for a team. Have you had the privilege yet of speaking to either of the McLaren drivers? Are they the next ones you'd aim for? Because you've got Alfie Butcher there as well.
Alfie is my target. I will find him at some point over the weekend and we'll have a really good chat. I can't wait to go and chat to every single driver out there on the grid. But what I was thinking about is, because we are here at DreamHack, we are being played out loud. I know we are live on YouTube, but we are being played out loud in this giant hall with lots of people, which means that even though the drivers do have their engineers in their ears, they can also hear the commentary.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder how that approach affects the drivers when it comes to
question.
racing in such a big space.
I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, I remember speaking to the drivers back in 2023 and 24, and they could hear us then.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, we were in a big arena, like you so rightly say. There's echoing as
Yeah.
well. It bounces off the walls. So yeah, no doubt they're going to be hearing us today, I think. But that's a good sign, because it means the action's hot.
Yeah, but 68 starts for a driver is about to make 69 starts is Danny Berejne, who I'm sure the more you've raced in F1 sim racing, the more you've secured points, had podiums, you're able to block it out. There is a man who's always smiling. He's on the screens right now, Danny Berejne.
He's not smiling on the screen right now.
Well, I think that is a smile. That's a kind of secured smile. But I mean,
It's a Freddie Rasmussen smile.
it is a little bit. But with that experience, that will help certain drivers out there in this competition.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Berejne's a stern talent. I mean, we look back at the time he spent with Brendan Lee in the past, and years of back-to-back pole sitter around this track as well. He likes China. I would never write him off, and this is why he was relatively positive, I think, at the end of his interview. Obviously knowing and understanding that Otis alongside him was Q3 bound. He himself, though, he's been here before. I think if you've got a level of experience and you're sat inside that bottom 8, looking to fight your way back inside the top 10, he's one guy you'd expect to rise up. And I think, no question, Alpine have got some plans with the strategy. They'll cook something up, no question. Otis knows, as you can tell. So, yeah, I think Alpine have got a thing or two up their sleeve.
I think that was a point for Let's Go Racing. Can we please talk about the Prancing Horses, the Scuderia team? And we've got Ismail Fassi, who moved from Williams. A fabulous start last year for him, proving what he's capable of. Moved to Ferrari now. What are we expecting from Ismail? Is there pressure on him, or can he just sort of show you what he's about?
Well, he's earned his reward, hasn't he, after finishing runner-up in the championship last season? I mean, taking on Jarno Opmeer is no mean feat, and he went close. He tried. I've got to give Ismail Fassi credit, but there's the team he moved from in Williams, and obviously Nicholas Longay will know a thing or two about racing for the team in red. Of course, had some magnificent performances himself over the course of the last couple of years.
Constructors champions.
Absolutely. I mean, they've proven themselves, certainly Ferrari, and I think if they can hone the same with Ismail, no doubt they can do some incredible things. Obviously, it's a little bit tricky because the teammate situation is a bit foggy. Obviously, with John Evans stepping in and helping out his squad at the moment. Obviously, they've been very busy working away, trying to develop their championship hopes. I think for Nico, though, I think this is a great move for him to rediscover his previous form, because we know what he's capable of. But he's come now into a team. He's hit podiums before. He is a former race winner. If he could do the same for Grove, it would be massive.
We haven't seen him. They're right just behind Williams, and that is Red Bull. I don't think we've talked enough about them. When you look at the stats, Kai, I mean, it blew my mind. 16 wins for Freddie Rasmussen, 15 for Jarno Opmeer. is this some team partnership right here?
I mean, it is two of the most precedented drivers on the grid. I mean, Red Bull as a whole are the most successful team coming into this season. Obviously, between these two drivers of Freddie and Jarno, we've got 4 drivers' titles and 4 team constructors' titles combined between the two of them, which is completely clear of any other driver lineup. Now, if I was to bank on any team to be going for the constructors, it would be these two right here.
Straight away.
3-time world champion Jarno Opmeer and pole sitter and 1-time champion Freddie Rasmussen. He said he's back. He said he's back on top form. And Jarno Opmeer, you can always rely on him for a good race. Red Bull is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And a great use of showing off different merchandise that you can purchase for Red Bull. This is going to be an epic race around China. Of course, myself and Nicola will be leaving this stage to you guys. Do you still get that buzz? Is it every time, George? I know how excited you were to go racing, which we are imminently away from looking at the lineup of the grid.
Listen, I mean, I have the benefit of working in which, witnessing these guys at their very best during the off-season, during league racing as well. So you kind of get a sort of sense of the story and how things are going to unravel, capturing the mood as well. Every driver knows this is the top of the mountain. This is the precipice of this great sport. And no question, with the likes of Red Bull, they've really flown the flag. Of course, they're well known in the sim racing community, proving that they can also build drivers up to become potential real-life racing drivers, with the likes of Sebastian Job testing real cars as well at Red Bull Ring. But aside from that, the other teams that have taken part, we're making new legends here, and certainly in what I would stem as an evolution of F1 sim racing in itself, being in this grand arena, and with the plans that are due to unravel through the course of this season. What is there not to like? I think right now.
There we go. Let's have a look at that lineup. Let's look at the grid. I'll pass over to you, George.
Thank you very much, Tom Deacon. This is the grid from back to front for the very first race of the season. John Evans starts from P18 for Ferrari. Ruben Pedreño in his first start for Aston Martin. 17th joins him on the back row. We'll then move up to P16, and it's Istvan Pukki, the Hungarian, new to Williams, with Jake Benham, new to McLaren, starting 15th on the grid on row 8. We move up, 14th place for Daniel Berejne, who had a difficult qualifying but still seems optimistic. Tom Manley in the Racing Bulls, former F1 Esports Challengers champion, 13th on the grid on row 7. We move into row 6 with Julian Klappenbach in his debut appearance alongside Tamas Gal for Haas F1 Sim Racing team, just on the bubble of that top 10. We head up now into the top 10 proper, and it's certainly Duncan Hoffland who is back with Thomas Ronhaar on the same row, on the 5th row of the grid. P8 for Ismail Fassi in his first start for Scuderia Ferrari, lining up alongside Otis Lawrence, bidding for a big result here on row 4. We go to row 3, it's Joris Krozen, a magnificent qualifying session. He lines up alongside the reigning and 3-time world champion Jarno Opmeer of Red Bull. Alfie Butcher, 2nd row for him. He's alongside Nicolas Longuet, witnessing a rebirth here in F1 Sim Racing with the Atlassian Williams F1 Sim Racing team. And now to your front row, Ulas Azildrim just narrowly failing to get back-to-back pole positions, but Fredrik Rasmussen back on top. The question is, can he win the race? But Red Bull seemingly on song. We're now all set, ready for race time here at Shanghai in China. Once again, we're set to go racing. Jarno Opmeer winning last season. Will he be back again? All 5 lights are lit, and F1 Sim Racing 2026 will put pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. Great start for Freddie Rasmussen. Ulas Azildrim a little slow away as they now cruise through towards turn 1. It's Alfie Butcher, Nicolas Longuet. They're going wheel to wheel now through towards turn 2, down through towards turn 3, 3 wide now as the cars get onto the grass. Jarno Opmeer fighting for all his life, trying to break down Alfie Butcher here at the get-go of this race now as they cruise outwards through towards turn 4 and turn 5 as well. Joris Krozen with a grand start. Nicolas Longuet dropping down to P6, Kai.
Nightmare start there from Longuet as he's just getting swarmed by all the cars around him. Not able to keep his head above water right now is Nicolas Longuet as he's just dropping further and further down the field. But do remember, there is still a long way to go. Longuet just needs to keep his head clear. He needs to stay cool, calm and collected, because there is still another 27 laps on the clock for him to recover these positions and the time that he's lost off the start. One driver driver going flying off in the background. That looks like the McLaren of Jake Benham, who unfortunately is going off the circuit as drivers still squabbling side by side, trying to pick up places where they can. But a brilliant start from Rasmussen. You can't fault him at all.
No, not at all. And it looks like the Jake Benham's tying up with John Evans at the moment. In terms of the tyre spread at the moment, the top 5 all on the medium compound of tyre. Then you've got Ismail Fassi down in 8th place, also on the mediums too. Little bit of movement here from Fassi as they cruise down through towards the hairpin. Nicholas Longue could be on the precipice of losing yet another place, and that's the tyre differential for you. Early hards, not yet up to temperature. The mediums, the better tyre in this instance, and Ismail Fassi cruises through to P7, and now a place up on where he started. But Frederick Rasmussen at the get-go here, fastest lap of the race as we bring an end to lap 1.
On board with the Frenchman as we dive down towards turn 1. It's going to be smooth all the way through as he's peering down that rear end of Ismail Fassi, trying to find any sort of move that he can get. Remember, slipstream is going to be so strong throughout this race. Being in behind another car down these long straights of the Shanghai circuit is going to work in your favor plenty, as Longue will just be setting up the move. Talking about moves, there's a little bit of banging wheels there in the background, but Tom Manley gets himself up into 9th with Brave on the brakes down the inside of Duncan Hoffland. Hoffland down to 10th, Manley up to 9th.
Managing to spring himself inside the top 10 as well since the start of the race. Tom Manley, as I said, former F1 Esports Challengers champion, now finding inroads here in the Racing Bull. Not a great start here for Longue, but remember, he is on that hard tyre for the start of the race. Keep your eyes on him when we see the pit stops unfold later on, because of course, like a few drivers that are on those hards as well, they will be moving on to the mediums for the second half. We'd fathom, of course, unless they're trying something very different in the strategy. Though speaking to the engineers and the teams, it definitely felt that hard, medium hard was the way to go. We're on the second lap of the race, 28 in total to take us through to the very end. 153 kilometers of distance in total now as Tom Manley opens up that rear wing with DRS applied, heading down in towards the heavy braking zone of turn 14. Freddie Rasmussen still 6 to 7 tenths above Ulas Yildirim, who's still staying in tow here despite being in the Racing Bulls. He knows he wants to pepper the back of that Red Bull. It could be a huge day for Ulas if he can pull something like that off.
All of the drivers struggling to get an overtake done here, as every driver is within 1 second of the car in front of them. So a DRS train is going from first position all the way down to 18th. That's why you're not seeing as many overtakes as you might expect going down that back straight towards turn 14. The major braking zone and also the major overtaking zone that these drivers will be favoring to get the moves done if possible. It's going to be a question of who's the bravest, who's going to be last on that braking zone, and who's going to go diving down the inside. As soon as one overtake is done, it'll be like a domino effect. Chaos will ensue, and that's when we'll see the drivers starting to squabble for position and gaps start to form between them. However, 3 laps into the race, your order: Rasmussen, Yildirim, Butcher, Otmir, Kroos in your top 5.
Well, at the moment, it looks like the Alfie Butcher is looking to make a little bit of history for McLaren. They've never taken a podium here at China. So today could be the day as we now ride on board here with Julian Klaffenbach in his first start in F1 sim racing. Breaking down in towards the next left and right, heading uphill and cruising then down the long straight, of course, alongside the very, very fast Thomas Ronhart. Back again, though this time not in the green of Sauber. Of course, we've got some exciting stuff coming over the next year or so, folks. With 9 teams for this season, we're going to be jumping to 11 moving through to 2027. Of course, with the addition of Cadillac and Audi to this great sport, and that only increases the level of competition. So hold on to your hats, folks. But this season, definitely setting the tone in this new era of the sport. So you now see them come through now towards the final corner to kick off lap 4 of 28. Frederick Rasmussen, 6.5 tenths. That's now starting to decline as Ulas Yildirim makes use of that long straight with the DRS applied. There's Jarno Otmir, of course, in the bottom right of screen, your reigning and defending world champion. Looking to take Red Bull back to the top as well. He's just currently clocking Alfie Butcher right now. He's on the medium tyres. He's in the right place. You won't expect many moves from this top 5. Of course, we'll tend to see the heat ramp up coming through the pit stop phase. Now, just to talk about those on the mediums and hards, approximately lap 8 to 12 is when we could likely see the stops first initialized. Those on the hard to medium, lap 16 to 20, though that can be broken outside of the scope. Some teams might try the weird and wonderful and maybe influence something through the course of this race, maybe with an early or late stop.
Well, off the back of that, we very much need to keep a close eye on Danny Berezne, as he was so open in his interview after qualifying, saying he was starting further down than he would have been hoping for, and strategy is where he was going to plan to make up that time. He said he was going to do something completely different to everybody else on the field, we're just sat on tenterhooks trying to figure out what that is going to be. As things stand right now, it seems to be pretty smooth sailing and straightforward at the moment for Danny Berezne, as he still finds himself further down the order than he would have been hoping for, down in 13th on those hard compounder tyres. My guess is he's going to have to go for an undercut if he wants to get something done.
Yeah, coming out of the hairpin now. You just see the rear lights flashing on the cars as well, indicating that some of them are recharging that battery for a run around the final corner at turn 16. DRS once again will be applied as they begin lap 5 of 28. We're now running on board with Ismail Fassi in his first start for Scuderia Ferrari, hopping across after the move from Nicolas Longuet to Williams, essentially swapping sides, really coming into this new season. Of course, it's been a long time since Ferrari have tasted Drivers' Championship gold. It was David Tanitsa, the winner of this race, all the way back in 2019, who then went on to win the title. Remember, every time we've had a winner at China, that winner of the Chinese Grand Prix race in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship has gone on to win that year's Drivers' title. Could that spell be broken this season, Kai?
I mean, it could, and if it was going to break one season, it would definitely be this one. I think the grid is closer than we've ever seen in F1 sim racing history before. So many talented drivers, so many capable of taking that golden crown at the end of it and walking away with the trophy. Constructors' Championship is also going to be something that's all to play for, with so many strong roster lineups. We've got McLaren with Alfie Butcher and Jake Benham. Keep an eye on Alpine as well, which we have Otis Lawrence and Danny Berezne. Can't take your eyes off Red Bull, as they are the favourites coming into this one. Their driver leading right now, Freddie Rasmussen, is just taking this race on board and taking it in his stride as well. He's managed to pull out 8 tenths to Ulas Olazildrim in behind, so a nice little bit of a breather room for Freddie Rasmussen. Doesn't have to worry about anything for the time being, but hasn't been able to break that DRS zone just yet. Once that DRS gap has been broken, that's when he can take a breather. Yeah,
obviously we'll be keeping our eyes on when the drivers choose to stop. We are on lap 5. We're cruising on to lap 6 now. Like I said, lap 8 to lap 12, we could see those on the mediums come in as soon as that lap 8. Maybe even a little bit before if they want to try something a little risque. But there is Joris Krozen, who is now starting to become slightly more detached off the rear of Jarno Opmeer and plugged into the front end of Otis Lawrence, who is looking just to maybe throw him off a little bit. Just try and maybe throw the odd curveball or two. Obviously, Otis currently well stacked because he's on that hard tyre. Now, that might be an almighty benefit for the Alpine sim racing driver, because, of course, he will be on the faster compound for the second stint. So it'll be really, really important to keep our eyes on him.
I think Lawrence is in a very good position right now on those hard compounder tyres. He's gotten a good start, and he's managed to make his way up into 6th position. He's gained 1 place off the start, so some momentum is great momentum, and any overtake is going to be crucial going into the later stages of this race. I think starting on the hard tyres is such a smart choice for these drivers, because later on in the race, once everyone has stopped, he'll be able to get himself onto those fresh, medium compounder tyres, which will provide him with so much more grip than he's been used to over the course of the race. The rest of the field will be on those hard tyres. Thomas Ronhaar having a little peek at the rear end of Duncan Hofland in his Alpine down the back straight. Surely down into 14 we'll see a move or an attempt of an overtake here from Ronhaar, but Hofland with a great exit out of 13. Nothing the Mercedes driver can do to respond there. He's going to go late on the brakes, and he had a little look on the inside, just trying to unnerve Hofland, filling the rear view mirrors of that Aston Martin. Hofland stays composed, doesn't react to the dive bomb from Thomas Ronhaar, but smart choices. The dummy nearly worked out for him.
Thomas Ronhaar knew and felt, after speaking to him after qualifying, we did catch up with him just after that session, felt there was more there to give. I think he's looking to show that here in the race, and Duncan Hofland, unfortunately, the candidate to witness it as well as they come out of turn 2 and turn 3, and then soon to be turn 4 as well. We're on lap 7 of 28. Joris Krozen in Haas, of course, Thomas Ronhaar's former team, of course, when Ronhaar debuted all those years ago. As they now make their way through towards this next left-hander out of turn 8 and turn 7 as well. But now jettisoning through, it's still Rasmussen in control. That gap now largening out a little bit, 0.8 of a second as Ulas Olazildrim becomes ever so close to Alfie Butcher, 0.4 to 5 as now Krozen sits behind Jarno Opmeer. And now heading down this little straight, turn 10 towards turn 11, before they then increase the elevation uphill as they make their way out the turn 11 apex, of course. Now, I mentioned earlier on that there were certain teams that hadn't actually tasted podium glory. Of course, we mentioned McLaren were one of those candidates. Alpine, of course, last tasted the podium here in China back in 2021, and that was Fabrizio Donoso. Of course, some of you might know the runner-up of the 2017 F1 Esports Championship, or the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, when Brendan Lee went all the way to lay claim to victory. Well, they'll be looking to once again touch the precipice again, maybe even go one step further as they come out of the hairpin now at turn 14 towards 15. They will begin lap 8. Will we see any pit stops here from those on the medium tyres? Indeed we will. There we are, we called it. Alfie Butcher has bailed into the pits first. Early call from McLaren.
Hard tyre drivers are now going to be in the hot seat. Everybody on these mediums are going to start degrading and feeling the wear of that as well. They're going to be on the back foot. So this is where the likes of Nicolas Longuet are going to be in their element and can start to push onto the rear end of the drivers in front. Longuet with a medium compound driver of Ismail Fassi right in front of him. So let's see the pace difference now between these two drivers. If we look at previous lap times, we can see that Longuet was marginally quicker by about 1/10 of a second than Fassi on that previous lap. But the more time that these mediums spend on the track, the more that gap is going to develop and the pace split is going to change.
And with them being so bunched up, this also helps Alfie Butcher. So those now on that medium tyre are going to be looking to respond straight away to Butcher's movements. Obviously, looking at this, him being on the hards now, it's a fantastic race tyre here for these drivers. They've been talking about it all weekend, obviously just alluding to the fact that they can use and abuse the compound of tyre, especially here at China, where you can maybe play a little bit liberally, maybe, you know, around the track, make use of those apexes and exits. He's going to have clean air here, Butcher, of course, 13.5 away from Istvan Pukki, so he's going to automatically gain places regardless when they come in, but he has got a massive opportunity here to dig in the delta and effectively improve his position. I mean, he could come out a net race leader out from this.
Well, Butcher first to pull the trigger, but the question is, has he jumped the gun? Has he went in too early? The undercut we know is very strong around the Shanghai circuit here in China, but you can always go too early and then you're going to feel the repercussions of it towards the end of the race. If his hards start to get worse for wear towards the end of the race, he's going to be so vulnerable to all of the drivers around him. So Alfie Butcher, coming in so early on lap 8, is going to have to nurture these hard compounder tyres and make sure that they are able to make it to the end of the race with still sufficient life left in them.
Yeah, an indicator as well that the hard tyres are coming into fruition now. Julian Klappenbach set in the fastest lap of the race last time out with a 1:29.900, so very, very strong here from Julian Klappenbach on his return, though he is down 3 places, though a lot of that can be equated to the fact that during the race start we saw the mediums really rise to the occasion, Ismail Fassi being one of them. Tom Manley surging up the field, of course, gained a fair load of places. I mean, 4 places up on where he began this race, and the others that are on the medium tyres, at least for the initial, Jarno Opmeer gaining a spot, Joris Krozen now, Otis Lawrence and Ismail Fassi, though I will say this, Otis on the hard compounded tyre, and indeed is the highest of those on the hard tyres, which could prove to pay dividends for Alpine as we make our way into the latter stage of the race. There's Joris Krozen in the bottom right of screen once again. Really sensational qualifying on his part. Top 4 now after we saw Alfie Butcher bail into the pits. Now I'd imagine we'll see those medium tyres come in this time. Will Freddie, though, be the first of the Red Bulls? Because no question, they want to avoid that double stack. Who will jump first, as now we see them make their way towards the final corner. They're going to stay out by the looks of it. Freddie and Jarno looking to go late here in this stint. Like I said, generally the window exists till around about lap 12.
Yeah, and this is where these medium drivers, well, less medium drivers actually on the circuit, then we see the hard compounder tyre. So teams clearly feeling that it was going to be optimal for everyone to start on those hard compounder tyres, get the long stint out of the way and have that fresher rubber when other drivers are starting to fatigue, when other drivers' concentration might start slipping towards the end of the race. Having that grippier compound and having that higher pace is going to be so beneficial than maybe it would be off the start. Because off the start, obviously you're going to get higher tyre graining because of the pressure and the load that these tyres are going to be underneath these drivers. Freddie Rasmussen, however, seems to be maintaining them quite well. Rasmussen maybe not having to push too hard, but having to push to a certain extent that he's able to match the pace of the RB driver in behind.
Well, it was a personal best in the last lap for Alfie Butcher. He's actually just put a second on our race leader over the course of that one lap against Freddie Rasmussen. Freddie's last lap, a 1:35.998. And it was a 1:35.006 for Alfie Butcher. You're talking just over 9/10 of a second to a second. So he is putting in an extraordinary amount of work here. The undercut could prove to be fruitful, but how will those hard tyres fare right at the end of the race. They may have seen the latter point of their life when we reach around the realms of lap 26, 27 and 28, in which case those on the fresher hard compound of tyre, or even those on the fresh mediums, could prove to eat him alive.
Well, I'm sure that McLaren will have a much better idea of what the actual tyre life is than us. A couple more drivers coming into the
Race
pits
leader.
as Rasmussen's going to bite the bullet, as well as Ulas Ozilidrim, as they will follow into the pits. Ozilidrim will come in with Rasmussen. Let's see how those pit stops go. Smooth for the Red Bull car and back out onto the circuit. Where will Rasmussen re-emerge? Well, he will re-emerge in P16, just far off the back of Istvan Pukki. Pukki currently in 15th. Alfie Butcher jumps the two of them.
No surprise at all, because remember, like I said, he gained a second the lap prior. So a lot of work put in by Alfie Butcher. Obviously the pit stops, like I said, can go as far as lap 12. I can only imagine if you're Jarno Opmeer right now, surely you come in this lap.
Well, he has to respond to these other drivers coming into the pit lane, and this is where strategy is such a big thing. Undercut is so strong here in China, so the last thing you want is to be caught dead out there on the circuit with tyres that are just degrading, and your pace is just getting slower and slower. Opmeer has to respond at some point. So does Joris Krozin, but Otis Lawrence, third place right now in the prime hot seat. Hard tyres on that Alpine car, so still a longer stint for him to be remaining. The last thing he wants is to get involved in a battle and to add any extra wear onto his stint, so he has to be cautious about this. Does he go for the move? Does he go conservative? Well, he's going to go for the first of those options. Down the inside, late on the brakes. It's going to be an attempt of an overtake there from Lawrence, but Krozin still going to hold it side by side through 15, down into 16 now. Just on the traction, drive out of the corner. Otis Lawrence gets into the lead, and both the medium runners of Jarno Opmeer and Joris Krozin dive into the pit lane.
And that move, very, very necessary on part of Otis Lawrence, because of course he's on the hard tyres. He's going to go the distance, but now he has got clean air, no one in front of him, and he's not far off breaking the toe against Ismail Fassi. He could actually break DRS, which would be massive here for the Welshman. All of a sudden, that qualifying session isn't looking that bad at the moment, as Nicholas Longate looks to chase down Fassi, of course looking at his former car dead in front. Fassi being chased down by the car that he drove last season as they make their way out of the apex of the corner, down through towards turn 6 and towards turn 7, 8 now this time. Otis Lawrence though leading the way, and he has broken DRS 1.1 to 1.2. He's on his own, Kai.
Fassi is going to be dead weight through this middle sector. His medium tyres will be screaming at him to pull into the pit lane. And for Nicholas Longate, this becomes a hindrance now because he's got this slower car slowing him down through the middle sector. He can't get too close because that's when dirty air comes into a factor. Ismail Fassi, I'm sure, will be departed of on this straight, but Longate will not be happy about this situation because now, with that slower car in front of him through the middle sector, not only has that meant that Otis Lawrence is able to get that gap out in front, but that's also anchored him into Duncan Hofland in behind, as Hofland will be the next car that has to make work of Fassi. Surely the Ferrari team will pull him into the pit lane this lap. I don't see it going any other way. Well, watch out. Is he going to pull into the pit lane for Ismail Fassi? No, he hasn't. One more lap and one more shot at it from Ismail Fassi, clearly feeling that he's comfortable with the pace and the tyres that are on the car right now. Duncan Hofland, though, would have been hoping for the opposite.
Yeah, I'm getting word, actually, folks, from race control that Tom Manley has been given a penalty for dive bombing. So therefore, that will impact his race when the checkered flag arises. Ulas Ozilidrim netting the fastest lap of the race now. Finally, Tom Manley comes into the pits as well for a change of tyres. But now, just look at the bottom as well. Frederick Rasmussen has now all of a sudden become our net race leader because Alfie Butcher has been upended. That early pit stop has not worked for the McLaren driver.
Well, Butcher was given the job to push as hard as possible, get those hard tyres into an operating window and use the pace to his advantage. However, on the other hand, he's sacrificing longevity in those tyres, and that's exactly what we've seen right here. Rasmussen and Ozilidrim have been able to jump the McLaren driver and get themselves into net 1-2 in the lead. It's going to be a long rest of the race for Alfie Butcher if he even wants to stay in a competitive position.
that quest for a first podium for McLaren looks like it's going to have to wait for another time, because obviously, as you know, not only sacrificing that big gap he might have gained through the course of that early stop, Alfie Butcher, but now at the same time he's got older tyres than Freddie Rasmussen and Jonas Zildrim, also in behind Jarno Opmeer, licking his lips at the prospect of an overtake himself as well. Red Bull are well placed here for a double podium to kickstart their season. Jonas Zildrim, though, also in the line of fire and could yet usher in a racing bull run this time around at a circuit where he was so proficient last campaign, becoming a pole sitter, chasing down Frederick Rasmussen once more as they head down through towards turn 14. Very soon it'll be turn 15, and a personal best definitely on show here for the Turkish sensation, who's now looking to rubber stamp yet another fast lap. And he'll look to begin his next lap as well, lap 14 of 28. As now more pit stops come in, we've got more and more of them now ferrying through, and indeed Ismail Fassi coming into the box at the same time. So that's yet another driver situated towards the top that has now decided to box off that medium compound onto the hards now. And it's Otis Lawrence, your current on-track race leader at the moment, 1.3 clear of Nicolas Longuet. He too, though, maintaining that DRS gap. Ismail Fassi's stint, and indeed that of others in between Nico and Otis Lawrence, has just allowed the Alpine to career onwards. This is a very nice position for Alpine to be in.
Yeah, this is exactly what they would have been hoping for, starting on the sub-optimal tyre, starting on those hards. The exact position that they want to be in right now is broken DRS behind, clean air in front, not having to deal with traffic, and just being able to focus on race pace, focus on consistency. That's all Otis Lawrence needs to be doing right now. No mistakes can creep in, because that affects his pace, that affects the gap behind, and also his tyre wear, as he needs to manage that for the next 4 or 5 laps until we start to see these hard compound tyres pit onto the mediums as well. Jonas Zildrim is going to be looking for a great result here. Net P2 for the drivers that started on the medium tyres. He's never scored a podium before, only 4 points in his last campaign in F1 sim racing. So let's see if he's able to achieve his first ever podium here.
Yeah, we've got some, we've got some pit stops here for some of our hard runners. John Evans coming into the pits as well, and he's not alone, because we have got others coming in. Julian Klaffenbach has also decided to come in, so we're going to see the new medium tyres now all of a sudden. There in the bottom right of screen is Joris Krozen, just currently getting fitted with a new, in fact, believe that's Tamas Gal. I do apologise. Tamas Gal coming in for a pit stop for a fresh set of medium tyres. Thomas Ronhaar, who we're currently riding on board with, chasing down Duncan Hoflin, the 2 Dutch drivers looking to hunt down after Nicolas Longuet, who's going to be out of DRS, of course, because Otis Lawrence breaking that 1 second gap, and that is only inflating at the moment. It's gone all of a sudden to 1.5 to 1.6. Otis, once again, like I said, putting in a sterling run, but keep your eyes on Danny Berejnay. He has not had a bad race at all, has made some decent gains, and has crept in front of Jake Benham. Of course, these 2 former teammates at Mercedes not too long ago, but Berejnay certainly with the upper hand, currently on lap 15.
Nicolas Longuet probably in the most difficult position out of the drivers on the grid right now. He just needs to use his experience and use his previous race wins and experience from that to manage this position right now, as he's got such a large gap in front of him. He needs to push, but not over push the car, as well as all of these drivers behind will just be piling pressure onto his shoulders right now. So Longuet is doing a great job to maintain that right now. 3 race wins in his history with 14 podiums under his belt. It's quite the forte and quite the CV that he's carrying into this season, is Nicolas Longuet, looking to try and challenge for a championship. Well, he has the pace to do so. He's second in the race right now, but not an ideal position. Let's see how he's able to deal with this.
Freddie Rasmussen now 3.3 away from Istvan Pukki. He's eating his way through the field here as our current net race leader has already stopped, and still dragging along Jonas Zildrim and the rest of the grid in behind as well. There's a 4.8 second gap between Ismail Fassi and Joris Kroes, and that was after obviously the late stop from Fassi, who was obviously looking to just try and effectively spin something through the strategy, but just simply has not necessarily perhaps worked out. Of course, needs to try and close that gap, but with Tom Manley in behind, probably growing frustrated and only being 6 tenths away from Fassi's Ferrari at the moment. Obviously, you do have to wonder whether Manley might stick in a move or two to try and elevate his own position as they now make their way around the crest of turn 12 and 13. There is Duncan Hoffman, still 2.6 off the top, but very close to the back of Williams driver Nicolas Longuet. Is currently just under 0.6 of a second as they drag across to the inside line, looking for that optimal route, that extra little bit of speed down one of the longest straights you'll see on this calendar. They'll now put the brakes on now this time. Duncan Hoffman not looking for an overtake, wants to ensure that the pace is good. He might get something here on the escape though, just had a slightly better exit, you'd fathom, against Nicolas Longuet as they now cruise towards the final corner, and indeed they come into the pits. So it will be Nicolas Longuet, Duncan Hoffman coming in. Otis Lawrence has boxed as well. So your current on-track race leader comes in. Now, we'll see where the others come out. Obviously, I'm expecting Freddie Rasmussen to eat this bunch alive, but remember, those that have just come off those hard tyres are now moving on to faster, fresh, medium, rubber, and Rasmussen now inside the top 5.
Well, we're well aware that Rasmussen's going to jump all of these drivers right now and get himself into the net race lead. But even though there is a gap now associated between them and the drivers that were just in the race lead, the question is, in these 11 laps remaining in the race, how much time can they cut back down? The gap looks huge on paper as there's such a large gap between Freddie Rasmussen, who's 10 seconds off the race leader right now, but our net race leader that's just pulled into the pit lane, Otis Lawrence, is 19 seconds behind. So there's nearly 10 seconds and half the grid separating Freddie Rasmussen and Otis Lawrence right now. So Lawrence has so much work to do if he wants to recover the time lost by the undercut and the opposite strategy coming into this race, as he has plenty of cars to overtake. He has to overtake them in a fashion that loses him minimal time in doing so, as well as we're just keeping an eye for the remainder of these hard compound drivers to pull into the pit lane for that fresh set of mediums, that being Thomas Ronhard, Danny Beresnay, Ruben Pedreño and Istvan Pukki. We're riding on board now with Jarno Opmeer. He's won around this track multitude of times, 3 championships under his belt, and looking for a move on Alfie Butcher if the opportunity arises, as Opmeer is just getting closer and closer to that rear diffuser of Butcher through the final bend. Couple of moves going on up in front as Ulas Ozildrim is going to battle with his Istvan Pukki in front. They're going to take that all the way down to turn 1, switching left, switching right, down the inside, trying the move. Ozildrim will get there. He makes his way past Istvan Pukki. Riding on board there with Jarno Opmeer, a POV of what he would have been seeing in that situation, as we're keeping an eye on Freddie Rasmussen trying to carve his way through traffic right now. Ruben Pedreño is going to be a hindrance here to the Red Bull driver. Nearly contact, nearly clips the rear left. He's forced the long way round, and Freddie Rasmussen is going to take that in his stride and take the position as well. Fast work of Freddie Rasmussen to make his way through the traffic, and now he needs to take advantage of this. He needs to make sure that Ulas Ozildrim is stuck behind Pedreño for as long as possible, but it's not going to be long at all. Diving down the inside through the second sector, he's going to take advantage of the door being left wide open. Ozildrim makes his way past, now has a bit of work to do though to break down that gap.
Yeah, and here comes Alfie Butcher as well, obviously keen to make places. He's on older tyres than others, perhaps on those hard rubber, but past Pedreño he goes, and Jarno Opmeer doing the same. Joris Krozen passes Istvan Pukki. Now the race starts to heat up with 10 laps to go. Those on the medium tyres have got to go to work now. Otis Lawrence, the leader of that contingent down in P12. There's Pedreño, who is now witnessing a run here, this time from Joris Krozen. They come down into the heavy braking zone this time. Krozen with a look, and looks to go wheel to wheel here against Ruben Pedreño this time. Krozen goes through here at the penultimate corner and will move through. Pedreño boxes into the pits.
No surprise there. The Aston Martin driver was just getting swarmed by his competitors around him, losing even more time with every overtake that was completed on his car. So the smart move to pull into the pit lane. He's going to have the freshest mediums on the circuit, but with the amount of time that he's just lost in that sequence, I would be very surprised if he's in a competitive position once he comes back out onto the circuit. But Freddie Rasmussen, what a sequence from him. Getting the moves done early where possible, and Jarno Opmeer, although on the same compound as Alfie Butcher in front, he knows in his head that Butcher is on the older hard tyres and will try and take advantage of that where possible. He's so much faster through this second sector here, so is he able to set himself for that overtake down the main straight into 14?
9 laps left. Jarno Opmeer all over the back of the McLaren. Alfie Butcher will try and keep the Flying Dutchman at bay. The reigning champion, the 3-time world champion, chasing down yet another podium. It could be a double podium for Red Bull should he manage to pull this off. They're getting closer as well further back. There's Otis Lawrence, your leader on the mediums. Remember, he's got to dodge and weave past a series of cars. He's going to kick things off with a move against Tom Manley as he makes his way out of turn 12 through turn 13. Otis back again, and next on his list will be Pookie as well. He's got a series of cars. He has to catch up with the rest of the field on the hard tyres. Here comes Otis Lawrence this time, wheel to wheel, 3 wide on the run down towards the apex of the corner in the hairpin. He blasts past, through past Tom Manley. Otis claiming 2. Next on his list, Ismail Fassi.
If there's a gap on the inside line, or the outside for that matter, you will find Otis Lawrence there as he's making light work of all of the drivers around him. Lawrence wasting no time of getting these moves done. There's another, departs of Ismail Fassi and gets there before the apex of turn 1. These medium compound tyres are coming alight and coming into their optimal window. So watch out for Otis Lawrence. 4 seconds off the race leader right now. Within 8 laps, he needs to be half a second a lap faster than Freddie Rasmussen right now if he wants to find himself within a chance of getting the race lead. And well, you know what? I'll tell you now, George, he is exactly that. On that last tour of the circuit, he was 0.6 of a lap faster than Freddie Rasmussen, so he is on pace to pose a challenge to the Red Bull.
And the key gap is that 2-second gap between he and Joris Krozen at the moment to get that DRS. As soon as he gets the DRS, he'll be right on trend with those inside the top 4 as well. Needs to try and close up and essentially put himself in a position to fight now in the remaining 8 laps of action. Of course, here comes Jarno Opmeer once more on the tail of Alfie Butcher. I can only imagine he's going to be looking to pull the plug on Butcher's ventures inside the podium places here. Here is Joris Krozen after that stellar run in qualifying, looking to match it with a brilliant race, and so far so good here this time for the Haas driver as they storm down the hill once again, or down the straight. Here comes Opmeer looming larger and larger to the back of Alfie Butcher. How long can Butcher hold him off? A little look here from Opmeer up the inside as we look at it from Joris Krozen's POV. They get very tight and bunched up, concertinaing around turn 14 in towards turn 15 and 16. And next up, lap 21 of 28. At the moment, it's Freddie Rasmussen still leading the way, 6 to 7 tenths clear of Ulash Ozyildirim, hunting him down all the time now as Opmeer remains in that wheel track of the McLaren of Alfie Butcher. Danny Berejnay on those fresher medium tyres now setting the fastest lap. Opmeer goes wide of the apex though, and Krozen has a little audacious look up the inside again, nose to tail. They make contact, rear diffuser on Jarno Opmeer's car, touching the front wing of Joris Krozen, but no harm, no foul. A little breath of exasperation from Joris Krozen. No damage here could be afforded by this Haas man who's chasing some big points here in the opening round.
Krozen saw the opportunity arise and just thought that he would sniff at the inside line, stick that front end there and make his intentions clear to Jarno Opmeer in front. Now Opmeer in the back of his mind knows that Krozen is in an attacking opportunity and only within the mindset of departing of his car as quick as possible. Opmeer made the smart choice. Let him go for the inside line but force him out wide through that second section of turn 3. So Opmeer choosing the smart decision there, and because of that, Krozen struggled to get on the power out of the corner. Keep an eye on Otis Lawrence, only his 2nd season here in the F1 Sim Racing Championship, but he finds himself on the rear end of the top 5. 108 career points last season, that was good enough for 5th in the championship. He'll want better than that. He's capable of better than that. It was 7th in qualifying, but a great improvement in the race so far. Flicks it through 14 and finds himself on the squirmish. Krozen out of 14 right now. He'll see these mistakes in front of him and want to capitalize as soon as possible, George.
Yeah, those medium tyres as well. How long will they sustain in this late stage? Of course, we're on lap 22 of 28. We've still got 6 laps also to take you through to the bitter end where the checkered flag will be raised and we'll crown our first race winner of the season. Thomas Ronhaar and Julian Klaffenbach. It has not been a grand visit for the Mercedes pairing. They're fighting with one another down in P12 and 13. A disappointing start for the pair of them, but for Otis Lawrence it's anything but that. He is well primed here to attack this top 5 on a better set of tyres. Needs to do it ASAP as well, and he knows he's gone too late, and contact with Joris Krozen. Now that might cause a problem. Istvan Pookie is retired from the race as well, so drama now starting to unfold. He can't afford to make mistakes here, Otis Lawrence. One wrong move and his mission, his quest to be a race winner once again. You remember the emotion from Jeddah last year where he won his first race in F1 sim racing. Well, he doesn't want to upset his chances here this time because he is on a better tyre. He is the fastest man inside the top 6.
That was just an impatient mistake there from Lawrence. There was no need for him to go so late under braking and try and dive for that overtake. The last thing he needs is front wing damage, especially when he's on these optimal tyres. Joris Krozen sighs a breath of relief as he makes his way down the back straight. Yellow flags out in Sector 1. That will be for the retirement of Istvan Pukki, our one and only retirement from this race so far. Lawrence has another sniff at the inside line, not going to make the same mistake as what he made through Sector 2, and thinks better of it. He'll sit in behind the Haas driver right now, but they'll make their way down into 16. Otis Lawrence, the only one out of this pack to be on the medium compounder tyres. Ismail Fassi in behind and Tom Manley are going to be the hard tyre breakers before you have the rest of the medium pack. Lawrence looking left, looking right, trying to find any move that he can. Sniffs to the inside once again. Door is shut firmly in his face there from Krozen. Krozen's not going to give him the opportunity if he can handle it at all. Still recharging the ERS, now both deploying, so no advantage to Lawrence. Surely in a braking tap of the rear again. He's going to try it the long way round. They're side by side, front wheel to rear wheel as well. Lawrence has shown the outside. It's still hard, but fair racing gets the move done eventually, and it's going to be those optimal medium tyres, the greater grip that drove him around the outside of Joris Krozen. It wasn't an easy one to get done. A lot of time lost there for Otis Lawrence, but a crucial overtake to be made.
Well, if you thought that was a big step for for Otis Lawrence, I have to tell you that Jarno Opmeer is going to be next, and that's going to be anything but easy here for the young Welshman, taking on the Flying Dutchman, the 3-time world champion. It speaks volumes, the quality that Jarno Opmeer possesses, but Otis Lawrence, a champion many believe in waiting for the future. Looking to close down now on the Dutch icon as they make their way down the long straight through towards the heavy braking zone, now in towards turn 14. He's launching himself ever closer, not yet primed for a move, but only 6 laps now are required on that medium compound. He is far beyond Nicholas Longuet at the moment is Otis Lawrence. No comparison between them despite being on the same age tyre. As far as Otis is concerned, he's extracting levels upon levels of pace here in this late stage of the race. They now make their way down through towards turn 1, beginning lap 24 of 28. Opmeer now going slightly defensive, trying to curtail the approach from Otis Lawrence here this time, but the Welshman digging ever so deep now, looking, hunting for a 3rd race win in F1 sim racing. Can he do it here, or is it going to Freddie?
Lawrence knows that he's in a prime position right now. This is exactly where he would be wanting to find himself in these dying stages of the race. It's a DRS train all the way up to the leader, and having those better tyres out of everyone in the pack, that's just going to work in his favour because he can push the car a little bit more through the corners, through the twisty sections, through Sector 2. That is where Lawrence will come alive. He can set himself up for the move where possible. Nicholas Longuet is going to be on those medium compounder tyres as well. He's the second runner on these medium tyres, stuck in behind Tom Manley right now. He'll be wanting to get that move done as quick as possible. Maybe down the back straight will be the opportunity. Can he use this extra grip to get a better drive out of 13 and get that run down to 14? Late on the brakes is going to be needed, but Otis Lawrence isn't going to wait for much longer. Tags the rear end of Jarno Opmeer. Opmeer goes a little bit sideways, but keeps the car facing the right direction. Now this is going to get spicy between the two of them. They both have DRS, both have slipstream, but who's going to be braver on the brakes? Can Lawrence get it done? He's going to set it up. Has a little look, but thinks better of it. He's going to fill the rear mirror, of Jarno Opmeer. Opmeer knows that Lawrence is there. A tiny bit of contact and making his intentions clear. Surely it's only a matter of time before this move is done.
Absolutely right. Well, Otis certainly chasing, hunting, like I said, looking for that gap against the Flying Dutchman. But like I said, easier said than done, young Otis, as he makes his way through turn 1 once again. Alfie Butcher still holding on to that P3. Suddenly that early stop perhaps isn't looking so bad, but like I said, he forfeited that potential P1 he could have had should the pace have been better on that early stop. Unfortunately for him, Freddie managing to pull together some stunning laps in his outlap after changing onto a fresh set of hard tyres, and now sits in control of this race. We got 3 laps or so to go. Half a second between Ozilderim and Rasmussen as it stands. We haven't seen a move yet from Ulas so far in this second stint, but there's plenty more time for that to occur. But for Otis, time is running out, and he knows it. He wants to chase it down. Thomas Ronha overtakes Jake Benham. Benham looking to get him back as well over P11 as they continue to fight it out. Benham, of course, against his former team Mercedes here, as they now stretch down through towards the next apex at turn 11, heading uphill now. The elevation, climbing it now through towards turn 12, and then back down again where they'll meet the long straight, and down the inside from Otis, getting a lovely run on Jarno Opmeer. Contact between them, but no harm, no foul, but he might lose out here this time to Joris Krozen, who Otis dispatched earlier on. That was a very risky move there for Otis Lawrence, and he's paid the price as Krozen now sits in front of him. Back comes Otis Lawrence, outside line now as they make their way down towards turn 14. He's run wide of the apex, he's lost a sea of places, he's down in 7th, Fassi back in the 6th.
Lawrence just lost his composure right there. He tried to go way too deep under braking to get that move done on Joris Krozen, and that was the worst mistake he could have made in this situation. He was on such good momentum, such good drive. With how late we are in this race, every corner matters, and you can't be giving up time, places, and also track position like that. Big mistake from Otis Lawrence, and he's paid the price for it as well. Krozen and Fassi have now made their way through. Joris Krozen will have been smiling whilst looking at that situation as he just picks up the scraps of the battle between Opmeer and Lawrence. Opmeer not really able to do anything in this situation. He will have felt those rear connections between him and Lawrence. Opmeer doing very well to keep himself composed throughout this situation, because this is not easy at all. Jarno Opmeer dealing with the pressure like the 3-time world champion that he is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Opmeer now, he will not settle for 4th place. I can only imagine he's going to be teeing up a run for Alfie Butcher, but at the end of the day, I think if you're Otis Lawrence, you're going to be resigned to the fact that you've just cost yourself a potential podium right there with a move that might have been considered overzealous. I can imagine his thought process at the time. Obviously felt that he was well poised to make the necessary move. Obviously the stewards might have a look at that as well. It was very tight between them, very nearly seeing 2 cars spill off the side of the track as we now ride on board here with Ismail Fassi down in 6th place at the moment, keeping Otis Lawrence at bay for the time being. He goes goes a little bit defensive, just trying to ensure that Otis doesn't get the double back coming through the penultimate corners as they now cruise through towards the final bend at turn 16, and it'll be the penultimate lap of the race the next time around. 2 away from the checkered flag. Freddie Rasmussen still in control. Ulas Azilrim, who is rested on patience, and I have to tell you, I think that's a smart play from Ulas Azilrim, essentially using that DRS that the Dane is providing to keep Alfie Butcher back, and by extension Jarno Opmeer, and of course Krozen and the rest of the grid by mere consequence. We run on board with Krozen, heading down now out of turn 3. Turn 4 will come next. Jarno Opmeer once again seemingly comfortable there in 4th at the moment, but knows that he must start to manufacture the overtakes. Red Bull chasing double podiums here, and they've done that before. If we look back as well, podiums have been taken by Marcel Kiefer for Red Bull in the past as well. Marcel incidentally also took it with Force India, but that's by the by. Freddie Rasmussen, of course, with Red Bull back in 2019 at the same time too, and of course Marcel doing it again in 2021, and of course Jarno Opmeer winning the race a season ago. There's Ulas Azilrim chasing that 1st place spot. The question is, does he make the move, Kai? That is the big question.
Well, there is no tyre advantage between the two of them. It's going to be a question of who has maintained their tyres the best and who is going to be more brave and push their car to the limit on this last lap. Do you want to risk everything, or do you want to play it safe and maintain the position that you're in right now? Well, for Azilrim, surely he's going to go for the move. Ulas Azilrim, we know he's such an aggressive driver, and with it only being 2 attempts, DRS enabled, he's going to be forced to the outside. Freddie Rasmussen's done a great job at holding off there, but can he hold off through 16? They're going to be side by side. Rasmussen has the line and cuts across the front of Azilrim. He's going to park the move for now, but every single straight is going to be Rasmussen's worst nightmare. Azilrim and Rasmussen both pitted on the exact same lap outside of turn 1. It's not going to be ideal, but can he catch the switch going into turn 2? No, he can't. Rasmussen parks it on the apex and keeps his Red Bull in straight form. Azilrim is going to have to try and get creative if he wants to get this move done on one of the most experienced drivers, the highest tally point of any F1 sim racing driver in history, Freddie Rasmussen. Can he take home another 25?
Well, he may have had 17 pole positions coming into our first event. He made it 18 earlier on today. He's about to make it potentially 17 race wins here in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. Is Freddie Rasmussen, of course, currently sat 1 above Jarno Opmeer in terms of the win statistics, as we now ride on board here with Joris Krozen by equal measure. Jarno Opmeer, no question I'd imagine, is looking to pounce on Butcher down that long straight. It's all going to kick off on the run down through towards turn 14, and there you can see a very motivated, impassioned Jarno Opmeer in the bottom right of screen, your reigning world champion. Could he be dicing it out with Alfie Butcher very shortly as they now cruise uphill through towards the final few corners on this racetrack? We're on lap 28 of 28. The checkered flag is not far away. Butcher getting a lovely run out of that corner. If anything, Opmeer might be teed up here for Joris Krozen as they take the run down through towards the final corners. But it looks like Freddie in control. Ulash looks to the inside, but he's far too back away from any possibility of overtaking the Great Dane. Rasmussen getting the exit he needs. Out of the penultimate corner he will go, out of 15 through 16. It's a return to glory for Freddie Rasmussen. Win number 17. He wins the Chinese Grand Prix and the first round in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship of 2026.
What a race there. Control and complete domination from Freddie Rasmussen to add another 25 to his points total and to kick off the F1 Sim Racing Series in 2026 in absolute fashion. George, you've mentioned it a few times over the course of this weekend so far, but every driver that has went on to win the Chinese Grand Prix in F1 Sim Racing history has won the championship. Is this the year that we see Freddie Rasmussen pick up his second?
Well, that's the dream, I'm sure, for the Dane. He's back on top, though, nonetheless, after a difficult season last year. Nothing breaks the hoodoo more than a win in your first round of the first race of the season. Freddie Rasmussen back on top in great style. Jarno Opmeer also sat inside the top 4. That is big points earned for Red Bull here in the opening round of the championship. Andre Kunschmann, the team boss, coming along for a little bit of a chat. They've of course been busy all weekend so far, just surveying data, ensuring that they manage to maximize and optimize the strategy. Obviously that is the mission that every single team looked to pull off. There you can see Jarno Opmeer in shot. Obviously seems quite content. I think he has every reason to be. P4, not a bad result.
No, not a bad one at all. Jarno Opmeer picking up a nice haul of points for his first race. A dream start there from Red Bull. Both drivers within the top 5, and I think it's fair to say we're the strongest team out there on the track as well. Constructor strength showing between the two of them. Ulas Ozildrim, he did a great job. He fought it all the way to the last moment. He tried his best to make his way past Rasmussen, but all of that experience and 17 race wins was just too much for Ozildrim to compete with. Rounding out the podium, Alfie Butcher did a great job as well.
And as far as the stats are concerned, we do have a little bit of history made on 2 counts, because Ulas Ozildrim becoming the first Racing Bulls driver to take a podium at China, which is quite something. Couldn't manage to pull off obviously a pole to victory last year. And aside from that, McLaren also achieving their first podium at China at the same time. So 2 teams featuring on the podium at Shanghai for the first time in F1 Sim Racing. So credit to them as well. Some big points going the way of Alfie Butcher. And you've got to give, really, that's a great drive from Butcher, especially being on the tyres he was on against all those on a fresher compound, to withstand Jarno Opmeer's pressure and hold on to third. It's massive. But in the meantime, we can now head down to the ground because Nicola is with our race winner, Freddie Rasmussen.
Freddie Rasmussen, first winner of the 2026 season. How on earth do you feel?
I feel good. I finally have some points. It's a lot better start than last year, at least, where I got 0 points in the first 4 races. And it's also my first time winning an opening race.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like, I'm stood here in front of you now. The Freddie that I saw when I was watching last season, it felt like a kind of different guy. You didn't quite find your feet, but it feels like you've approached this season with a very level head, and it seems like you smashed that.
Well, last year I was demoted to second driver since the first event I didn't score points, so my only goal was to help Jarno win the drivers and win the constructors as well. So we'll see how it goes this year, hopefully better.
How did it feel towards the end there? Because it looked like as it was approaching the last lap, Ulash was right there. That was wheel-to-wheel racing. What was going on through your head at that point?
I knew he had better tires because he was able to save behind me. But maybe if I just nailed it, then I could stay ahead. And yeah, it worked out.
Okay, so it's a deep breath because we're back here again tomorrow to race in Japan, which we know is a very good circuit for you. So how are you feeling ahead of tomorrow?
Oh. You need some good luck in the last chicane to get a good starting position. So, yeah, I hope I get lucky.
Well, I mean, it's been about 4 years since the Suzuka track has been taking part in F1 esports. So actually, it's back again. It's a strong track for you, and you're starting at the top. So tomorrow, going in, feeling pretty confident?
Yeah, feeling all right. I hope our pace is good there. We don't really have any reference, so we'll see.
Freddie, congratulations. Thank you very much for talking to me. Go and have a celebration with your team. Tom, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola, and great to hear from Freddie. And just goes to show what achievement that is for him. We know 17 wins, but when things aren't going your way as a sim racing driver, you definitely have to change things up. Last year, the first event, no points scored. His role changed. This time, Freddie, if you score points, we are going to unleash you. And that is very worrying for any other sim racing driver out there. Great call of that race. Shout out to Ulas, his first ever podium. Brilliant to see from him. Alfie moving up into the podium as well. And also Joris Krozen, his highest ever finish in F1 sim racing. It's a juicy way to start the season.
Absolutely. We had a few firsts. Obviously, we were alluding to the McLaren first podium at Shanghai, China as well. Great points for them, especially when it looked like that Alfie Butcher's strategy kind of fell from underneath him a little bit. And obviously, yeah, Joris Krozen, I mean, what a fantastic qualifying he had. But to go from lights to flag and then pull off a big point stall for Haas is massive for them. So congratulations to them. And obviously, we heard from Freddie, his first win at the start of a season. So
yeah.
What message does that send to the rest of the grid in terms of his hunt for another championship?
4 times he's finished runner-up as a driver in the Drivers' Championship, and also one-time champion. Let's talk about lap 1 then. Kai, it all went off. It was exciting, hand-in-mouth moments.
Yeah, 100%. The first lap was always going to be fiery chaos, and that's exactly what it was. All of the drivers just trying to take advantage of this early doors. All of the drivers that were on the medium compounder tyres desperately trying to make their way in front of the hard runners as soon as possible. Then it was a little bit quiet. It was more of a DRS train through the remainder of the race, and it was down to the drivers to manage their tyres as much as possible. But as soon as it came to the pit windows, and especially for the pit windows of the drivers on the hard compounder tyres, that's when it was completely mixed up. Freddie Rasmussen was the first to dive in on those medium compounder tyres and be the front of the hard runners as well. But Ulas Yildirim was hot on his heels the whole time, not making it easy for the one-time champion. However, when those drivers made their way off the hard tyres onto the mediums, that's when it started to spice up, and it was Otis Lawrence who headed that pack, George.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a tremendous drive, first and foremost, from Otis in terms of getting the strategy done, but it really fell apart towards the end. Especially after the move coming out of turn 13 against Otmir. We're just looking at it right now. They tied up. You could argue perhaps there was a little bit of gap closing there towards the end, but it really got bad coming into the final corners. But this was the man who reigned supreme on top. Frederick Rasmussen, 17 race wins now in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, and never before winning at the start of a season campaign, all of a sudden winning your first. At the start of this season's campaign, Red Bull certainly looked well placed this campaign, I think, to go on to do greater, bigger and better things. He is your race winner, Frederick Rasmussen, 26 points now in his back pocket. Ulas Yildirim, brilliant drive, I think it has to be said, going after pole last season, nearly replicating it again, going from lights to flag, second place, brilliant stuff. Alfie Butcher, third, keeping the tyres alive, at least to keep Jarno Otmir at bay. Joris Krozen, Ishmael Fassi down in 6th place as well. He'll be back for Ferrari. Otis Lawrence, I'm sure, will be licking his wounds, but didn't actually lose any places, finished in 7th place, obviously where he started, so no harm, no foul there. Nicholas Longe will be bouncing back after his stellar performances in Q1 and Q2 earlier today. Duncan Hovland, good points for Aston Martin, I think. Danny Berejne gaining places. Remember, he started outside the top 10, 4 places up now in that 10th place spot, so not bad at all, Tom.
And correct me if I'm wrong, has he got the fastest lap there for picking up an extra point as
That's
well?
Right.
Okay, good. I thought I'd double check my F1 knowledge. Doing this for the 9 seasons, I thought I'd just double check, just for everybody at home as well. So moving on to see the next 8 drivers and the final classification. Thomas Ronhart, a bit of a shock for many there. Jake Benham in P12. Tom Manley, Julian Klaffenbach with his debut drive in F1 Sim Racing. John Evans down there, and Ruben Pedreno, Thomas Gao, and Istvan Pukki. Can we talk about, and I don't want to spend too long on it, but Istvan Pukki, not the debut he would have wanted for Williams. It wasn't the best Q1 out, as I said, just alluding to, out in Q1, so it wasn't great for him. But there's 2 more races. There's Japan tomorrow, and then there's Bahrain. So the best strategy is really to get over a day that hasn't gone your way, is to get back in the seat ready for tomorrow. Yeah,
and I think Japan, as a circuit, is a bit of a fan favourite as well. Many of the sim racing drivers also love it. It provides a nice levy of different strategies to work with as well. We might even see an occurrence of the soft tyre as well. Who knows? We'll look forward to seeing that. But I mean, Pookie, we know how good he is. I mean, obviously has taken more of a third driver role historically with Ferrari and Mercedes, but now with Williams, he has a chance to be part of that be that main figurehead alongside the likes of Nicolas Longuet. But results like that aren't going to help. We know that he's capable of better. I think Williams is a great platform for him to show off his skills, much like we've seen from Nico so far in qualifying. Maybe it's a blip in the road. We hope so.
Well, finishing 8th at the Chinese Grand Prix last season. I tell you what, a guy who will definitely be celebrating 18 points. Put them next to his name, Ulash Özildirim. He's with Nicola right now.
Ulash, P2, that was so close at the end there. Talk me through it.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to follow Fred at the start. No, not pass him to save my tires. Then I saved my tires. I had a lot better tires actually, but I did a mistake in the final lap of going onto the straight. So it was like 6 tenths, and I used all of my ERS to get besides him, but I couldn't. But I'm still very happy with my first podium, obviously.
And so you should be. It's a fantastic achievement. So first of all, congratulations. But I was expecting you to be a bit sweatier, knowing how close that was towards the end there.
Yeah, I mean, I tried my best. I couldn't get Freddy, but I'm still happy because I had very unlucky 2 seasons now. But now this season is starting off well. It's one of my best tracks, China. So I feel really good.
So how have you approached 2026 differently to last year?
I mean, I guess I am putting more pressure in qualifying in myself, in practices, so I could deliver more. Last year I had pole here, then in race it wasn't really good, but now it's the opposite, so I am really happy with it.
So when you say you're putting more pressure on yourself, what do you mean by that? So like, what's going through your head before a quali session, before a race?
I mean, I always think what I'm gonna do on the track, like how I'm gonna brake, which corner I am gonna take with which ERS and stuff. So I guess that's changed in my mentality to use, I don't know how to say it actually, just use that as a practice in my brain before the qualifying itself.
And have you approached this year, I mean, we're one race down, that's it. So we're back tomorrow, going to be racing in Japan, and then on Sunday going to be racing in Bahrain. So do you already think ahead to those races, or just for now, you were just focusing on China, and then as soon as you get back to your hotel tonight, right, it's Japan, Japan, Japan?
Exactly. I just focus on China now, but I'm not doing Japan. Yoni is jumping in the car for Japan. Then I will do the Bahrain, so I will fully focus on Bahrain now in my head. Took tomorrow as an off, just a win day. Then tomorrow, after that, just go again for Bahrain.
Okay, so if you're not racing tomorrow are you going to be here at DreamHack? Are you going to watch what's going on, or are you going to be in your own space preparing for Bahrain?
I think I will be here to support my teammates, so I guess I will be here with them watching the race.
Ulash, thank you very much. Go and celebrate with your team. Congratulations on P2. Tom, back to you.
Thank you, Nicola. It is DT time. That stands for debrief time. Lots to unpick there with Ulash. Congratulations to him. The first time having an interview after a race. Did I hear that right? He's not racing tomorrow in Japan? Is that what I alluded
Could
to?
be, yeah. I mean, obviously we know that some of the teams are rotating with their 3 drivers, and obviously some have come with a plan to stick with their 2. What I found interesting when I spoke to Ulash earlier on today is that they've spent a lot of time, as many drivers do, with responsibilities across multiple different sims. It seems the case that this season they're focusing solely on F1, this campaign for the Sim Racing World Championship. And I think we've just seen that in Ulash's performance. They're able to focus on the complexities of this particular game, master their craft on the F1 Sim Racing platform. And therefore, that's what results like that give you. I wonder if there's going to be some quiet reevaluations in terms of who they're going to, put out for tomorrow's race.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. It's DT time. It's debrief time. Maybe they might shake things up a little bit. Let's look at the standings after one race. Important to put those points on the board. But over here at DreamHack in Birmingham, that's where we are at this LAN event. It's fantastic to see. Freddie Rasmussen, 26 points up there at the top, 1 point for finishing on pole after quali. I can actually see Yoni Tormela's rig over in the side for anyone here. You can go and have a look. And there's also Jana Watmers as well, a champion's rig that I'm sure he will sign at some point. So yeah, they are talking about shaking it up a little bit, but surely after you've just picked up a P2 in a race, they might mix it up a little. We'll have to wait and see, but that's teed it up perfectly. Let's have a look at the constructors, the team's championship. What does that do? Combining the 2 driver score. Well, there you go, straight away. A 20-point lead for Red Bull. We said this, Kai, you said they were the team, as we all know, with a target on the back, and what a start for them.
Yeah, there was no surprise there. The veteran force is really pulling through for them. As you mentioned, Tom, 20-point lead, actually over their sister team of Racing Bulls in second position. But a great job from Red Bull to already take advantage of that lead. And that's mentally going to play on the other teams and on the other drivers, thinking, how can we do better? How can we get on the level of Red Bull?
Well, there we are. We'll just wave round. An amazing shot there to come and join us. Okay, we head now to the debrief time, as we've said. Even for us, we've got to discuss how it went today.
Absolutely.
Some of us might not be coming back. I'm referring to myself, obviously. But we head to the Japanese Grand Prix. It's happening in the real-life racing world. It's such an incredible circuit. Really looking forward to it. That's round 2. And then, as Nicholas said with Ulas in that interview, round 3, where he potentially will be coming back to go racing again. What are we looking forward to tomorrow?
Well, like I said during the race portion, we noticed that Suzuka, for fans and drivers alike, it's one of the most enjoyable, I think, on their part in the calendar, and for good reason. It's got such a high level of variance, high speed, a mixture of fast corners. I personally love the snake section right at the very start, where you climb the hill, you reach, of course, the precipice of the circuit at Dunlop Curve, and then heading through towards the Degners as well, before then heading once again towards Spoon Curve out of 130R. So there's plenty, in fact 200R, do apologise, get those two mixed up from time to time. But yeah, no, there's lots to enjoy, plenty of overtaking spots, and the drivers will make the most of it, I'm sure.
Well, we are looking forward to that. Kai, I've got one question for you, and I know I'm going to put you on the spot. And if you know anything about me over the last 9 years with F1 Sim Racing, I will put a difficult question to you. Who's impressed you the most today after one race? It doesn't necessarily have to be Freddie Rasmussen, but if there was someone that stood out, you think, I'm really looking forward to seeing them tomorrow.
One name springs to mind, Ulas Zildjian. I think that was such an outstanding performance from him, and mature beyond his experience in the championship as well. To be able to even take the fight to Freddie Rasmussen full stop. Of course, he didn't quite get there, didn't quite get the overtake done, but to be within contention and to be within attacking range of a driver of that caliber really shows that he's a force to be reckoned with this season.
Kai Vicini, George Morgan, to Nicola Hume, chatting to the driver. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you along with us for round 1. China, done and dusted. It's on the standings. We'll be back tomorrow for the Japanese Grand Prix at 1 p.m. UK time to go qualifying. You do not want to miss it. We'll see you then.
Speed thrills. Precision wins. Every corner, every stop, every second. Calculated. Can you handle the pressure? F1 Clash. Download for free from the App Store and Google Play.